160 years. A very long time, longer than Canada has been a country. 160 years of people gathering together to worship God, to celebrate God's presence, to support one another in difficult times, to celebrate together, to be together, to encourage one another. 160 years of this. May we experience the blessing of God's presence with us and the blessings of sharing in holy community. It is a joy to be here today on our anniversary Sunday. It's a joy to join with you in person, or if you're joining us from home, it is a blessing to be together. If you look in our bulletin, you'll see our announcements for today. Just a note, I hope everyone picked up a piece of paper and a pen. If you didn't, just raise your hand and someone from the back will bring one up to you. You'll need that for later on in the service. After the service, instead of putting all the pens back in the little spots, in the little bin bags back in the little pen bags, there's little pencil spots. Why don't you just stick one in there? And then we've got them in the pews as well. Our bulletin this month is dedicated by Jerry Asling in loving memory of his parents, Don and Stella. We give thanks for Don and Stella's life. We keep in our prayers from the Hamilton Conference Prayer Cycle, Carlisle, Kilbridge, United Church, and Halton Presbytery. We have we continue with a wonderful weekend of celebrating our 160th anniversary. We had a great evening last night here with Linnea Good filling the sanctuary with song, sharing stories, amazing interactive, fun, faith-filled evening. Thank you to everyone who came. Thank you for everyone who helped in making dinner, in singing, in dancing. Thank you, Charlotte Grace, for helping us dance last night. Thank you to Willie for all the work in organizing a wonderful evening. The celebration continues today. We have our dinner later today, gathering at 4:30. Tickets are all gone. We have a full house down there. So thank you everyone who picked up a ticket in advance, letting us know how much we needed to get. We're going to have a wonderful evening with Petunia the clown doing face painting and magic and I think balloon animals. Is there balloon animals? I'm guessing there's balloon animals. There might be balloon animals. And people have been asking, we're having former ministers here. People are asking, well, who's going to be here? Because people are excited. We have Bruce and Betty Seaback coming for tonight, Barry and Margaret Bain, Doug and Jean Kaufman, Stan Bunston, McCall and Jessica, I'll be here, and Rink and Susan will be joining us. And it is my great pleasure that today I welcome somebody I've known for many years, 15 years now. I did the math. Makes me feel a little older now. 15 years I've known Michael, a friend of a friend, a classmate. At one point, we lived in residence together at one point. His name keeps popping up wherever I go, it seems. Michael is the operations manager at Five Oaks Retreat Center since August 2017. Before that, he served as the program coordinator for the Canada Program of People in Partnership at the National Office of the United Church. He was minister to the Go Project, which is an amazing youth program that Michael helped expand and spread throughout the country. Michael has been involved with youth ministry for many years. He's a designated lay minister. He now lives in Paris on an organic farm with his family, loves the outdoors, and being involved in creating intentional community. Wonderful person, wonderful gift to the church. So let's give a big welcome to Michael today. Please remember that we are going to be celebrating our All Saints Day Memorial Hymn Sing on November 4th. And I need your help. It's going to be a service where we remember people. We remember people in your lives who've gone before. I need your help in choosing hymns. There's hymn sheets at the back. Choose a hymn, write a name of someone you want to remember on that sheet. There's a spot if you want to make donations, because people ask sometimes, can I make a donation for this? You don't have to, but it's there. But please take the time to fill out, check off a hymn, and we'll be reading the name as we sing those hymns on November 4th. We have a book study coming up on Tuesday from 7 to 8. We're going to be starting a book study on Barbara Brown Taylor's An Altar in the World. If you're interested, please speak to me after the service. We ordered books. I'm not sure if they're in yet. I haven't seen. Yeah, are they in?
Yes, there are 5 books. I'll probably put them in the church office.
Okay. So see me if you ordered a book or if you want to be part of the book study, An Altar in the World. Barbara Brown Taylor is an excellent writer, preacher. Are there any other celebrations, sorrows, or announcements for today? Yes.
Our bus trip is filled up and ready to go for a Wonderful World of Christmas in December. I'm looking at doing another one to Stratford to see Billy Elliot in the spring, and I'm looking for some input. So if you see me, if you yay or nay, give me some ideas, because if I order, I'm going to order the tickets tomorrow. So anyone interested, let me know. If you're not interested but you'd like a bus trip, let me know that too. Or if you have something else in mind that you'd like in my planning. Thanks.
Any other celebrations, sorrows, or announcements, or birthdays? We celebrate, a little birdie told me, we celebrate your birthday, Bob. Are there any other birthdays? Then can we sing happy birthday to Bob? Happy birthday to Bob Bell. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Bob. Happy birthday to you. We give thanks to God for the wonderful gift of you. We give thanks to God for all the blessings that fill our lives, for strength that finds us in difficult times, and for the love of community. And we light our Christ candle, remembering that as we gather, Christ is with us. We gather together, called by God to this holy place, this place where we open ourselves to the Spirit of God, echoing through this time and through our lives, transforming us, strengthening us, and directing us. We gather together, called by God to this ancient place, a place rooted in 160 years of history. A rich quilt sewn together through amalgamations, church unions, and the movement of people. We gather together, called by God to this living place, this place where we come together, not only to experience God's grace, but to proclaim grace in our worship, our wondering, our work, and our play together. We gather together, called by God to this gifting place, seeking God's direction as we continue to build a legacy, a place where people may continue to be welcomed, inspired, and moved in discipleship. We gather together, called by God to this celebratory place. We celebrate God's praise, our history, and one another. Come, friends, let us worship together. And let us pray. Creator God, moving through all time and place, as we celebrate 160 years as a community of faith. May we encounter you in our work in this present moment, and leading us to future hope and promise. Bless our worship and bless our community. Amen.
How are you doing today? Good. Got all your dancing from last night done? Wasn't that fun? Yeah. Today, we're celebrating something very special. We're celebrating our 160th anniversary. 160. Do you know what an anniversary in a church is? It's like a birthday. 160 years ago, this church was formed. So I thought, what do we have at birthdays? How do we celebrate birthdays? You might have challenges, so like games, like at your what birthday was that? 8th birthday, you had Timbits on a string, you had to try to eat them. Willie, take a note for our next anniversary. Timbits on a string, that sounds great. We might do games. We had music last night, that's kind of fun in the game. What else? Presents first, yeah. I thought one of the things that a birthday is great to have is candles. So I'm gonna have to find candles. I thought 160 candles. Wouldn't that be something? They didn't have 160 candles at the store. So I can't do 160 candles, but each one of us could hold a candle. So I'm going to give you a candle to hold. I want to tell you a story about something Jesus said and about our church. So we don't have 160 candles, but anybody take a candle? If anybody thinks now, oh, I wish I was up at the front now, you can rush up here and get a candle. Oh, yeah. It's okay. So you gotta hold the candle very carefully like this, because we're gonna light the candles. Because on birthdays, you don't just hold candles, you light candles. You gotta hold it very carefully. So in the Bible, there's a story where people asked Jesus who he was. He said, I am the light of the world. And light the candle. And be careful. If you need help from someone beside you, just ask. Hold nice and careful. Jesus who he was, and he said, I am the light of the world. But then there's a really cool story that happens later on, where Jesus is teaching people, and he says, guess what? You are light. You are light. And no one takes their light and puts it under a basket so that nobody can see it. But you set it up nice and high for the whole world to see. We're celebrating 160 years, but we're not really celebrating the building. We're not really celebrating how many years we've been here. We could have many more than 160 candles, because we're celebrating all the people who've been part of this church, people who've gathered to worship, people who've come into the church to learn and play through groups like guides and guiding and scouting programs, come to the weight management programs or Alcoholics Anonymous, who come here to eat on Wednesdays or other days, people who share in the life of this church. We celebrate all the light that people have brought and shared with one another. We celebrate the light that each one of us here and those joining us at home bring together. We celebrate the light that people who we don't even know yet, but will come into the church in the future, will bring. So close your eyes and imagine 160 candles. Big cake full of candles, 160 of them. Now imagine how many people in 160 years were part of the church. Imagine them putting even more candles on the cake. That's what we celebrate today. Jesus said we each are light. We bring beauty and wonder and warmth and hope to one another and this world. We each shine Christ light into this place. So we celebrate. One of the things we celebrate by doing is blowing out candles. So let's all blow out our candles. Blow extra hard. There we go. And see all the smoke rising up? It's not just up there. We share that, our light, with the world, just as the smoke fills this room. So you're going to stay up here for the choir. Are you going down after the choir? Or are you going to stay up there? You'll figure it out. You'll figure it out. You can go back to your seat. You can either keep your candle or give it back to me. But have a wonderful time.
The scripture this morning is Psalm 40, and the refrain is in Voices United, number 764. waited patiently for you, O God. You bent down and heard my cry. You put a new song in my mouth, a song of praise to our God. Blessed are those whose trust is in God. O God, my God, you have multiplied your wondrous deeds. I would proclaim and tell of them. Sacrifice and offering you do not desire. But you have opened my ears to hear, and I said, Here I am, ready to do what is written in the scroll of the book. News of deliverance in the great congregation. I did not restrain my lips, as you well know. I kept your goodness in my heart, but have spoken of your faithfulness and your saving help. I have not concealed your steadfast love, nor your truth from the great congregation. Do not withhold from me your tender care, O God. May your love and truth ever preserve me.
Well, thank you so much for having me this morning. I am delighted to be here. Thank you for reading our psalm responsively. Some people probably think it's maybe odd that I chose a psalm, but I hope it speaks to you this morning. And let's just pray together as we enter into this time of word. God, we know you are present. We give thanks for your presence. May Spirit move amongst us as we worship. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of all our hearts be acceptable in your sight, compelling us out into this, your world. Amen. So I got up at 6:30 this morning, so I'm a little bit weary. I live 2 hours south of here, and what a beautiful drive it was today. You know, a little bit gray, good day for driving. And where I am in Paris, Ontario, the leaves are just changing. So they're still a little bit green. I have this glorious maple tree in my yard that is just going from green to yellow. I have to admit I was disheartened to see some snow on some cars. We haven't had any of that yet, though I hear that London and Sarnia are going to get snow today, and we may get a little bit of flurries coming on. But as I thought about 160 years here with you, and I thought about anniversaries and birthdays and candles, even that simple drive, you know, driving 150 kilometers or so north from Paris to here in Hanover, the change that is being marked. You know, the season is changing, and just that short little distance can mean the difference between leaves on trees and not. Or a little bit of that white stuff on cars or not. Change is something that we all bear, is it not? So when we come to these milestones of life, whether it be the birth of a new child, maybe the death of a parent, a marriage, or a collapse of one, we must stop and pause. We must stop and mark those sacred moments. So my husband and I, we celebrate the anniversary of the day that we met. And if you ask him, he'll say it's January 12th. And if you ask me, I say January 13th. But it depends on which one of us that you ask. And he insists it was before midnight, and I insist it was after midnight. But it was around midnight, so we celebrate on one of those 2 days. And as each January comes and passes, we recognize the ways that our lives have been changed. Changed from our late 20s when we lived in Toronto and we had sort of a carefree life. Probably some people are remembering your 20s right now or anticipating your 20s. You know, that carefree life. And then to now, where we live on a farm in rural Brant County, and we have an 8-year-old son. How much life has changed. So each January 12th or 13th, we look back. But more importantly, with awe and reverence, we look forward in anticipation of the life that will come, the life that will be developed with hope and awe. So today you are marking the anniversary of this sacred place of worship here in the community of Hanover, and I know even broader than Hanover from amalgamations and changes. You know, the circle is wide of the mark that you've had on this community. 160 years, you mentioned longer than Canada, that's amazing, of spiritual life. The marking of those lives of all the people that have been connected to this place. This church, this congregation has witnessed Canada change, has witnessed Canada be born. This congregation is an important place in this community. So as McCall mentioned, my name is Michael, and I'm the managing director of Five Oaks. I got a promotion since I sent you that, so that's exciting. And so now I'm like really in charge of Five Oaks, which is crazy. Someone said that I should do that, so we're trying that out. As you may or may not know, Five Oaks is a United Church Education and Retreat Center, which serves 5 conferences in Ontario. And Five Oaks has gone through a major structural change. Actually, almost 2 years ago now, the Five Oaks Board of Directors said, we can't do this anymore. We can't stay open, we're going to close. And a whole bunch of people said, whoa, wait a minute, this place is too important to close. So it has changed in the way it's structured, in the way it's staffed, and in the way that we serve our neighbors. So prior to 2016, Five Oaks predominantly served as a lay education and training center for the United Church of Canada. And Five Oaks at that time received block grants every year. So every year the National Church just gave Five Oaks some money and said, good job, you know, do this great important work of lay ministry. So we know that the church is changing, and we know that block grants have gotten less and less and less each year, until in 2015 they signaled that there would be no more block grants. So as Canada has changed and as the church has changed, this caused the 4 education retreat centers across Canada to experience what I would call an identity crisis. So today 3 of the 4 of those centers remain. The center in Manitoba did close. And major changes and renewed visions have enabled the centers to remain relevant in a new context. So we're very excited. Five Oaks is now the first, what we're calling the first intercultural interfaith retreat center in Canada. So we continue a deep partnership with the United Church of Canada without any block grants, and new partnerships with 6 Nations, which is our local Indigenous community, and with a network of Muslim associations. So these 3 faith groups now make up the official partners that support and move forward Five Oaks. So in a way, Five Oaks is about to celebrate its second anniversary. So this is our second anniversary, which is very exciting. And I note this second anniversary because the Five Oaks that once was succumbed to make way for a renewed center, which serves a broader constituency and a center that is more relevant to the community around it. So instead of closing, Five Oaks had an epiphany moment. They woke up and said, wait a minute, our community has changed and who we serve must change, and so they changed. So recently, Psalm 40 has been speaking to me for a new era of church service and ministry. So I don't know if you're aware, but the popular band U2, who I loved when I was in high school a long time ago, actually wrote a song based on Psalm 40. If you haven't heard it, you can Google search it later or watch it on YouTube. It's a great song. And Bono, he chose this section of the psalm for the song. I waited patiently for the Lord, and he inclined to me and heard my cry. God brought me up out of the pit of destruction, out of the miry clay, and God set my feet upon a rock, making my footsteps firm. God put a new song in my mouth, a song of praise to God. Many will see and fear and will trust in God. And it seemed to me in those days, and many years after high school, all through college, that the church was just moving too slowly, unable to keep up with the changing world. And Bono's voice cried, it hit me right deep inside. He sang over and over this verse as his chorus. How long to sing this song? How long to sing this song? How long, how long, how long, how long to sing this song? Was all that could echo in me. How long? Change felt painstakingly slow. I wonder if you've ever felt this way. How long? Community building, that is, has been core to who I have been. And the church has been core to that circle of community. Almost all my friends come from some trace of church connection, and that circle is now growing to include folks from indigenous spirituality and the Muslim faith, which is so exciting. But at church dinners when I was a kid, so if I was a youth tonight and I was coming to your church meal, I would have been there with the coffee and tea. I would have been serving the coffee and tea, chatting it up with people, how's it going? All the elders of the church, really like just networking. I loved meeting the senior people of the church when I was a youth, and still today. It was a great chance to catch up and see what was going on. And on Sundays after church, at coffee time, it was my mother pulling me out of church at the end. I was like literally one of the last people to leave coffee hour. She was like, we have to go home. Sometimes she even left me there. She just said, walk home. In my camp days at Kennesaw Camp, which is a United Church camp in Kent County, building the community of kids and counselors was a magical role, bringing together 130 people and forming this 5-day community. Oh, I get shivers thinking about it just now. And on Go Project, which I founded in 2006, to bring together youth and children in community nationally around the common goal of local outreach and community-inspired worship, touched me deeply. But recently, and all that was very active, building that community was an active thing. But recently, I have learned a fresh definition of community that has impacted me. Community is when we listen each other into being. So I've been reflecting a lot lately on what it means to listen as a white male Christian in Canada. What does it mean for me to listen? The Truth and Reconciliation process and its call to actions, the Black Lives Matters movement and the Me Too movements name publicly that the way dominant culture has listened, or more appropriately, the lack of listening, and the way in which power was wielded has damaged many people. Many of the ways that I engaged community in my younger years was active. It was vocal. It was through me speaking. And my strong voice was often unaware that I wasn't doing much listening. My increasing acknowledgement of this power that has been granted to me only because of my skin tone and my gender has made me increasingly uncomfortable. So I seek to shift this balance only after speaking when those who have traditionally not spoken speak first. By self-checking my own assumptions before offering my own thoughts, and by creating space to witness what happens for true community to exist. This is also true of the corporate church, isn't it? Our history has been active and vocal, shaping and shifting and molding Canada into the beautiful society that has been created, mostly for the greater good, and sometimes we know at the peril of others. I know that in my second half of life, I just turned 40, that I am called to listen more, speak only after having carefully listened and fully listened to another, and to be open to what might come. Our church, the United Church of Canada, I believe, has modeled a time of deep listening. And the church must continue to do this deep listening to create the space that is needed so that true community might be born. So McCall mentioned that I served at the National Church for 1 year as the Canada Program Staff for People in Partnership. And in that role, my job was to connect United Church people to our global partners. So I had a lot of strong links with the global partners all around the world and some strong links with congregations, and to try to get people to meet with people. So as part of that role, I had the opportunity to travel to Southern and Eastern Africa for 1 month, and I visited partners in Zambia, Kenya, and Tanzania. I was able to visit wells that had been contributed to by United Church people that were, literally pumping water out of the ground for Zambians, fresh, clean water. I had the opportunity to visit a child's rights advocacy organization in Kenya, and I had the opportunity to meet with women's maternal health experts in Tanzania. At each of these visits, so I would go to a place, and there would be a whole bunch of people that would gather there to meet me. And in those moments, I became acutely aware of this power and privilege I had, coming from a Western church that had for many years been financially funding these programs. And I was aware of also my power and privilege, which was placed upon me in that moment, only because that I was a man and that I had white skin. And I felt so uncomfortable in many of these moments. It was a blessing to highlight and be part of conversations about new ways in which partnership can be developed outside of this one-way colonial, financially supporting church into new ways of exploring what does it mean to be in a mutual relationship with each other where we each share the gifts that we have to offer. And in particular in Kenya, I visited the Kenyan Alliance for the Rights of Children. So it's a group, an organization all across Canada that makes in schools child's rights advocacy programs. So they're literally teaching children about their rights so that they don't have to be forced into labor movements or horrible situations, teaching children what their rights are as Kenyans. And I listened to all these stories of these children sharing about their clubs and what they have been doing, and it was so beautiful. And when it finished, we all went outside, and the children asked me to take a selfie with them. So they wanted a selfie with me, and I thought, yeah, sure, it's no problem. So, we all got out, and all the kids around me here, and we took a selfie, and they took selfies. And I thought nothing of posting this picture on my Facebook. I made it on my Facebook profile. The big banner at the top was all these African children and me in the middle. And I thought, wow, that's great. What a great picture. And it was only after I returned from my trip and I met with a colleague, and she pointed out that that picture was the stereotypical picture of a colonial way of being. I was horrified. I was horrified. And many of the comments on this picture, my mom even commented, many of the comments on this picture were about the good work that I was doing, or the encouragements for me to stay safe, or the blessing that I was to them. And I share this story to remind myself of how easy it is to fall into the trap of old colonial thinking. How easy it is for well-intended comments, rooted in a place of love, that can be totally wrong. We have some hard work to do to shift ourselves out of that thinking. So I chose Psalm 40, and I tell these stories to you on purpose because Psalm 40 is a thanksgiving for deliverance and a prayer for help from King David. So what's happened is King David is just about to be enthroned as the king, and he's read the scrolls, and he is committing to what it means to be the king in his time. So it can call to us personally, I think, in this day, because he's really doing the same thing that we're asking for in this era. It calls to us personally into the church when we mark ourselves on those times of life, like you're marking yourself today on this 160th anniversary. So I wonder what does it call to you? And to claim the paraphrase, "Here I am, God, I come to do your will. Here I am, God, I come to do your will. It's a powerful statement of a future yet unseen, that which we hope towards. It's a calling to commit to doing the will of God in this era, which is altogether different than the era of all those people who held those candles. You know, we think about those 160 years and 160 years of people gathered together with all their candles. Amazing. And it's altogether different than the next 160 years, isn't it? It's by gathering in this place, you're doing something that's totally countercultural. What we're doing here today is unusual to most people in Canada today. Gathering here is an unusual thing. It's a beautiful, unusual thing. So the church is in a time of understanding the blessings that we have. And in the past, we know that the church was, I hear the stories all the time. The churches were full. You know, the Sunday schools were full. I worked at a church in Toronto. There were so many kids in Sunday school that they had to rent the school, the public school on Sundays, every classroom, full of kids. And the coffers were full, and the choirs were full, everything was full. And now today we're in a new reality check, aren't we? Just like Five Oaks was in a new reality check of figuring out what is our future going to be and who are we going to serve. So we have this new challenge, a smaller but faithful and dedicated group of people like yourself contributing to the community, still trying to figure out what it means. You know, there's less money and there's less stuff, there's less buildings. Maybe that's a huge benefit. One of our biggest challenges in the United Church of Canada right now is to try to figure out what we're going to do with $1 billion of property that we own. How will we use $1 billion worth of property? How will that change when we recognize this, how we might be in Canada and be in our communities? I call that a proliferation of blessing. Proliferation means like a gathering together, more and more. A proliferation of blessings that we have to serve in this world. And when we come to understand these blessings, we must acknowledge that what we have is sometimes because another person does not. So what we have, it may have been stolen from another person, the land, broken promises potentially, or closures of another church. And Five Oaks wrestled with this exact question as we went through our change time. What should we do with the land, recognizing that it is on treaty land? How do we share it, and what does that look like? Secondly, we need to come to that sweet place, or might be known as the hard place, where we can shift from listening to receive the prophetic calling to us once again to be relevant. And thirdly, offer ourselves with that simple mantra, here I am, God, I come to do your will. So I've said a lot of things, and I wanted to talk about listening. So I asked McCall to put a piece of paper in each of your bulletins and a pen. So this is when we're going to listen. We're going to take some time just to be quiet together. And I have 2 questions for you. So for 2 minutes, we're just going to enjoy the peace of this community. And here are the questions that I'd like you to consider. First, write down all the blessings you can think of that exist in your community, either this community of faith or the community that you come from. And secondly, what is Psalm 40 verse 7 speaking to you on this 160th anniversary? And Psalm 40 verse 7 is, here I am, God, I come to do your will. And then in 2 minutes, we'll come back together and we'll talk a little more. And we're going to collect up all these papers and just give them to McCall and he can do something with them. I don't know what yet, but I pray that something will happen with them. So 2 minutes. So I'm not sure if that was 2 minutes or not. You can keep writing as you listen. And you know, people always tell me, Michael, when you go do a sermon, you always speak about justice issues and you're always very, very serious. And they say you need to make your sermons, you need to say some jokes or something, you know, make people laugh. And I'm not funny. I'm not funny. But I have a joke for you. It has nothing to do with the sermon at all. But I'm going to tell a joke, okay, just to bring us back to this time. So this is from my camp days. You might think this is funny and you might not. So there was a man driving his car one day and he hit a cat. Oh, and he felt terrible. You know, oh my gosh, I hit this cat. And he sees a house and he goes, I gotta go knock on the door. You know, so he goes up and he knocks on the door and the woman answers the door. He says, ma'am, I am so sorry. I believe that I have hit your cat. she's like, well, what did the cat look like? And the man said, did you see my face? Yeah. So that's my joke, a little humor for you. So it's not all serious. I can tell my friends, I did say a joke. I'm really grateful that you invited me here today to speak on your anniversary service. And to be honest, I really wasn't sure what to say as an outsider. Often outsiders get asked to come and speak at an anniversary service. I wasn't sure what to say because I don't really know the dynamics of this group. I'm not sure, about your vision and history and mission. I don't know those things. So what can I offer to you, as an outsider that's not a part of this community? So what I can offer is this. As Christians, we are captivated. I am personally captivated, and I pray that you are too, by the life-shaping, eternally relevant message of this man that we follow named Jesus. In my opinion, religion and institution has radically messed up how the simple call of Christ is shared in the world. Sometimes church has really messed it up, hasn't it? But Christian communities at their roots, which is what you are, Christian community at its roots, we need to reclaim what it means to be people who radically follow this guy named Jesus. Like, he had dusty feet, and a bedraggled group of people followed him for no good reason other than he said, hey, you guys should follow me. I have a really great message. Let's go feed some people and heal people and be with people. What it means to be Christian is radical. And not presbytery or conference, not the new regions that the church is making, not the national church are going to solve that for us. Not a moderator or a pope or a bishop. We are the ones that need to redefine ourselves to show the community who we are. So recently I was at a conference at the Atlantic School of Theology, and Professor David Dean reminded me that the Eucharist, which is communion, is a sacred meal that reminds us that I am you. I am you. And by partaking in this meal, we remember, I am you. So if you're hungry, I'm hungry. If you are battling a terrible disease, then I am. If you're naked, then I'm naked. If your community is threatened by an epidemic, I'm threatened by an epidemic. The Eucharist meal is this revolutionary act. It competes with our body's desire to amass and attain and have. The communion meal pushes it back against that and says, share all the things that you have. So David Dean goes on to say that the church it's going to take a long time for the church to wake up from this drunken stupor of our colonial way of being in the world. And it's going to be hard for Christians as we realize that we don't live in that last 160 years anymore. We live in the next 160 years. And we need to reconcile ourselves as we go through that. So our first act of reconciliation on this 161st year of being together is to say, here I am, God, I come to do your will. May it be so for you on this day. And there's an amazing writer that I want to close with. His name is Richard Wagamis. He's an Ojibwe writer. If you haven't read this book, you can order it from the Grand River Bookstore at Five Oaks, and they'll ship it to you. It's a great book. And he says this, I live for miracles in these days of life, not the earth-changing, light-bringing, soul-powering kind, but the ones that carve out a small space of peace, where before there was only a jumble of resentment, fear, and doubt. The ones that happen from choosing to live the right way, like coming to understand that forgiveness isn't about gaining a release from others. It's about gaining release from me. If I release my hold on what binds me, I can walk free and unencumbered. But I have to embrace the resentment, fear, and doubt to gain that. I have to own them, hold them again, so that I can learn to let them go. In that letting go is the miracle. May you claim the miracle that is found in saying, "Here I am, God. I come to do your will." Amen.
There is
God moving through the lives of all people, through all history, guiding us, shaking up our lives, setting our course. We give you thanks for this anniversary, for this chance to pause and give thanks to you and those who have gone before us for the life, faith, and sharing that has taken place. Help us be open to your presence guiding us now, moving us into the future with hope. Help us to listen one another into community, to listen to those around us, especially those who we have not always been good at listening to. Help us to see Christ's presence in everyone we meet. With hearts full of your love, we offer our prayers silently or aloud. We pray for Bill Petropoulos, for Judy. We pray in a world that is so often marked by violence that we may see and join in your movement of peace and hope. We lift up the prayers that rest in our lives, joining them with the prayers of all community, trusting in your love as we say Amen. I want to share it with you. We have a very special service coming up on November 18th as well. This week and last week and next week, a group of wonderful youth in our church have been meeting to explore faith through the confirmation class. And on November 18th, we'll have Confirmation Sunday. On November 18th, we'll also have New Member Sunday. Now, even though I've been here 2 years now, I'm not sure who's a member and who is not, who has started coming just before I came and who's been here for forever. So if you're not a member, you've been thinking, well, I'm just waiting for someone to say, do you want to be a member? This is your personal invitation. If you would like to become a member of Grace United Church and of the United Church of Canada, please speak to me after. We'll have a day where we'll get together and talk about our story and our faith. So November 18th, Confirmation. And November 18th, New Member Sunday. And also with a mixture of joy and thanksgiving and sadness, we'll also be saying goodbye to the Bullocks and to Sonia's ministry on November 18th. So come and share in that day as well. I invite Michael to share a blessing with us.
So friends, as you go from this place, and as you claim that calling, here I am, God, I come to do your will, remember the simple words of the youth choir, I have love, and my house does too. May you go proclaiming that eternal and deep and wonderful love of Jesus Christ in this community, this new world. May it be so. Amen.